the Taoiseach's announcements yesterday caused a lot of upset within his own party. One party member is with us, John McGuinness, Fianna Fáil TD for Carlow-Kilkenny. What's your reaction to the decision, John?
I thought it was a very poorly communicated decision, and I have witnessed the various ministers that sit around cabinet table now trying to push the blame towards Tony Holohan and others, running for cover when in fact they could have and should have discussed this more openly with Tony Holohan and with their colleagues in cabinet.
Are you saying that the data, there was sufficient data there for them to have had an inkling of this earlier if they'd asked? Or that it was a sudden revelation?
Well, the government with Tony Holohan are managing this pandemic and our response to it. And I have to say that I find it hard to believe that the letter from Tony Holohan was the first that they had learned of the difficulties that were coming up in terms of the Delta variant. Look at Europe, look at what's happening around the world. They should have known it, and they should have been planning far in advance of the announcement. And when the announcement was made, they should have been a lot more informative in terms of, they came out and they said, yeah, we're not opening, and gave no date, even an indicative date of when they might open. And these small businesses have been investing in their staff, investing in their stocks, investing in their businesses. Suddenly to be told we're not opening this day either, it simply isn't good enough.
Surely what the Taoiseach will say, and I've no doubt you're going to put this to him this evening at the Parliamentary Party meeting, but when you do, surely his response will be, well, the data changed, the science changed, and therefore we had to respond accordingly.
And I think that publicly we've had enough of that, because we don't see the data. We don't see the analysis. We are being provided with some analysis today, but surely the point is that the government should have had all of that analysis and all of that understanding about Delta before they came to that cabinet meeting, and before, as they are now reporting, that this was landed as a grenade on their cabinet table. It shows a very poor approach to governance in the context of the country and the cabinet.
And you had
frankly
no wind of this. This was not something that was discussed among the parliamentary party. You had no sense this was on the way.
We discussed very little at our parliamentary party, and likewise with the Fine Gael parliamentary party, because you get the reports and the leaks from there. You get the reports and the leaks from cabinet, but the electorate and the political system would expect that the cabinet would be fully informed of this, and in turn that the cabinet would fully inform all of the rungs of the political ladder right down to the very bottom one.
So who do you hold culpable? Is this that the Minister for Health wasn't grasping his medical officer and saying, where are we at?
Well, look, when the Minister for Health came out as part of this announcement and said that we now have to have a conversation with the sector, I quite frankly, I was just shocked at that statement, because having a conversation now with the sector after you've just closed them down again is just poor management. It's bad management, and it shouldn't happen. And when you're running a country, and within that country you have this cohort of businesses that give good employment locally, that they're not kept informed, and that is only now that the Minister for Health is saying we'll have the conversation. Well, I'm sorry, look all over Europe. That conversation has been had months ago. Solutions have been put in place, and there wasn't this knee-jerk reaction which has caused uproar in the hospitality sector. Everyone acknowledges the damage that Delta variant can do. We understand that. We haven't been privy to the modelling and to the commentary, internally from Tony Holohan, but from news and watching the world news, you come to know about it.
Well, you're a senior party colleague. Why do you think Minister Donnelly has not done that?
Well, the Cabinet haven't done it. They briefed the news media first and communicated it all very poorly. They shocked with people with the announcement, those in politics and those in business, because we never expected that this was what they were going to say, or indeed that they were not going to give a date for reopening. And they expect everyone to take it, with a grain of salt. I'm sorry, the public need to know. We need to know the analysis, and we need to know what they're going to do. And those in the sector need to know. Now, the argument is
people
not
will listen to this, John, and think this is extraordinary to hear somebody from a government party saying this. If you were opposition, it'd be understandable, but this is your own party. You're in government.
We're in government, yeah, and we should be told. And I'm simply saying that there is such a deficit of information and engagement from Cabinet that it makes you wonder, do they know anything about business? Do they understand what those business people have had to do to get to the point of believing that they were going to reopen? And they understand, the business people and politicians like myself, we understand the difficulty with Delta. We understand the difficulty of dealing with COVID. But to think that the government was so ill prepared for Tony Holohan's letter is quite shocking.
But will they not say, look, this was blindsiding. We suddenly got given information that was based on the spread of the Delta, which had only really taken purchase in the previous week or two. We had numbers suddenly skyrocketing from 80 deaths to a potential 1,000 deaths, and we simply had to act fast.
Look, it's as simple as this. They didn't make themselves aware. They're not doing their job at Cabinet in the context of managing the country. They're not doing it very well. They should have known this from Tony Holohan as they went along working with him, and indeed the Minister for Health on the same corridor as him. They should have known that this day was coming. They should have planned, they should have had supports in place, and they should have brought the sector along with them, and indeed the customers and the staff that are all reliant on that sector reopening. They didn't do that. I mean, they have so many advisors and press people in there. You wonder why they make a mess of an announcement like this time and time again.
And what's your guess? I mean, you're part of that party. Over the past number of months is when this should have happened, what you're outlining. Why do you think it didn't?
Because they're doing it on the fly. They're doing it as they go along. They're taking the messages from Tony Holohan. They're willing to do it, not analyse it in a way and then factor in a bit of risk, understand the sector that they're dealing with, whether it's the pubs, the restaurants or whatever. And they're not bringing the people with them. They're not bringing their political parties with them. And I think that most people are quite offended by the fact that actually we're being kept out of the loop.
So what's your expectation?
And that's a dangerous place to be.
You're unlikely to be alone in this view if reports are to be believed. What's your expectation for the parliamentary meeting then this evening?
Well, I think it tells it all that it's this evening we're having the parliamentary party meeting. We should have had it immediately after the government made the announcement. But we'll take it as it is. I think that there will be, right across the membership of all of the government parties, there will be clear anger at the way this has happened and the way that the sectors have been treated in relation to the reopening. And that will be voiced very robustly in the course of the parliamentary party meeting this evening, and answers will have to be given. But there will also have to be a plan as to how this is going to be handled in the context of information directly to members of the Parliament. Why are we not having a meeting of the Dáil to actually debate all of this and how it's affecting our economy, the people that work within it, and so on? And what are the more imaginative steps taken by other governments to take their people and their businesses through this pandemic?
Well, on that note, there has been a lot of discussion. We talked yesterday in the programme about the Danish experience. Pat Kenny this morning was discussing the German experience and what's happened there and how they deal with the pandemic. From this point forward, what is it that you will want from Cabinet and from government colleagues? Because there's big questions about next steps.
Information, analysis, engagement with the sectors that are being affected, engagement with the general public, and a balanced, sensible approach. That will entail some risk, but that can be factored in. And it's interesting to note that, you know, the media are getting the worst scenario. So we're being told about the 2,100 deaths that are likely. But there's actually two other scenarios. There's the middle and there's a lesser one. So why take the one that is, the worst and put it out there? Because they're trying to condition people and to get them back on side. And
although it has to be said, neither of the scenarios, even the most conservative scenario in terms of deaths, we are talking about, and to give you the hard numbers, we're talking about an increase of deaths from 80 to 545. So that's 450 plus people who'll die in the next 3 months, according to NEFIT, if we do reopen.
I'm not dismissing that. I'm simply saying that there needs to be a plan around it. There needs to be a plan around how we are going to live with COVID, because apparently this is not going to go away for a long time to come. And we need to look at why at this stage we haven't got 80% and more of the full population vaccinated. And again, that's down to efficiencies. It's down to telling the truth to the people that matter, the general public, business people, and so on. All of those need to be fully informed of what's going on so that they can understand what they're going to do with their business. Businesses today are, kicking up that stink and angry and frustrated about it because they haven't been included.
It's a fairly stunning indictment of your party colleagues when you add it all together, that they haven't acted fast enough in terms of preparing what needed to be prepared. They haven't communicated sufficiently well to the public that they understand it. They didn't give enough notice to the sector so that they could prepare, and they didn't brief their parliamentary party colleagues so that they understood what was going on with sufficient clarity that they had insight into the numbers. In that context, are you happy with the Health Minister?
No, I'm not. I think that he should have had far more engagement with the sector, far more engagement with his parliamentary colleagues, and they should have listened to some of the common sense that was been spoken to them by members of the parliamentary party over a long period of time.
Are you happy for him to remain in position?
Look, he's in position. I'm not going to raise a question over that. That's for Micheál Martin. But I have to say that the style of management and his style in terms of health has to change dramatically to bring things back to where they were in terms of management and control and an understanding with the public.